All right, all right, all right. We are live. What up, what up? Make sure you guys drop a like when you get into the room. We are chilling. We are killing. Well, we're not killing. Don't demonetize me. Say hello. What up, what up? Come troll me. Troll, troll, troll. Let me invite the cord. That's what the cool people call Discord. Da-da-da-da. I'm going to be doing a bit of administrative work. Feel free to drop me in anything, any question, any challenge, any comment. So I'll just pwn you. Ask me challenge me, and I'll pwn you live on the air. What do you think about that? Triggered. Okay, so something cool to announce. Don't tell anyone. Penn Jillette and Lawrence Krauss live August 9th in Toronto. You didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from me. We're going to be talking about free speech today at 5:30 Pacific time on the new CallIn app. If you guys have not tried the app yet, give it a shot. It's fucking amazing. Still got some kinks to work out, but the engineers are working hard on that. But it has been awesome. So it's perfect for the kind of shows that we do. Make sure you guys drop a like. There's 5 of you in the room. Let's get 5 likes. Like. And yeah, I'm going to be live streaming while I do some work today. So feel free to stop by anytime and ask me anything. So yes, big event, August 9th in Toronto. Penn Jillette and Lawrence Krauss in conversation. Very excited. So pumped. It's going to be metal. I know there's been a lot of people asking for a Toronto event. Thank you for the likes. So yeah, we're getting cracking on a Toronto event. Contracts are signed, and yeah, things are moving forward with that one. I'm excited for that. Another thing, I'm planning the first ever philosophical expedition, traveling around this planet, doing the largest philosophical data collection in human history, largest scale, which is going to focus on how people are thinking in each country, the kind of things that extracting the kind of information you can't extract from a poll. Having thousands upon thousands of conversations in each country around the world. And I've been Zachary Miller thinks in binary, beep, beep, boop, boop. Well, I'm glad you're finally admitting that. You dichotomous fuck. But yeah, philosophical expedition. My plan is to start in Japan. And ouch. We're going to be filming the entire journey and releasing the content to you guys here. So you're going to be getting a lot of new Pangburn content that's going to be coming at you from around the world. Yeah, the one of the main goals of this expedition is to create the greatest collection of philosophical data that that we've ever had. It'll by the end of this project, which will go on for years, um, we will have a collection of how people are thinking, not what they think, not their ideology and things like that, but how they are thinking, how they determine what is going on in reality, how they solve moral dilemmas, um, how do they find inspiration, not like the things, but how do they come to understand what inspires them. So this, um, a lot of this expedition is going to inspire people who come across the content to actually introspect on their own thinking and try to solve these, or try to refine their own mechanisms of knowing and belief. So I'm really excited about this. How soon? When is this going to start? I'm hoping within the next 3 months. Uh, I might go as far as um, kind of putting all of my stuff into storage, or I might just like rent out my place while I'm gone. It's probably the best bet. Maybe I'll plan on being out on the road for about a year. Um, yeah, so there's a few different options, but the goal is by the end of this, for each country, I will, release a little handbook on the data we collected regarding how people are thinking in each country. There will be it will be myself and one other philosopher, and we will be engaging in conversations in Japan, north side to south side, hitting all economic classes, and we're going to engage in the same kinds of discussions through the entire country with translators, and we're going to film everything through this entire journey. And yeah, and then of course, a lot of people are going to ask, well, how? Why is it important to know how people think? This should inform our education systems. We really need to start shaping our education systems to focus on uh, how people are thinking, and refining our mechanisms of thinking. You know, trying to get people to memorize mathematical formulas that most people will never ever look at again, or you know, like memorizing dates in history for an exam. This is this has become the internet, and our source of essentially unlimited knowledge has made this obsolete. We have the greatest library in the world that we carry around with us. Clean Sweep says, I really admire NDGT, Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I disagree with him when he says philosophy has no place in science. But where do thought experiments and ideas begin? Any thoughts? Yeah, so the thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson here, this is the level of ignorance that some science communicators and scientists, some of the greatest science communicators and scientists, the level of ignorance that they have with regards to philosophy. We didn't just create philosophy because, like, for the fun of doing it, for some kind of philosophical pontification wank fest. We created it out of necessity, because yes, there's the scientific method, but then deciding what areas to research, like there's cosmology, but then there's the philosophy of cosmology that deals with any ought questions that would come up in cosmology. Well, uh, should we follow this lead down this path? Well, we shouldn't do that. We should focus on more over here, because this is uh, this has higher value to humanity. Value? Well, fuck. Show me the object where we could measure value. Doesn't exist. It only well, it exists, but it only exists metaphysically. So this is where scientists shit their pants, and then they're like, they go cross-eyed, and they're like, but what object what exist metaphysical? Like, so you scientists have to understand that like concepts exist, but they don't exist as objects. You know, science we use to measure what is going on in reality. You know, the objects, right? Everything. I'm an object, but my mind is born from the object, and the experience born out of that is of the subject, my phenomenology. So all of that stuff needs a place to live. That's why metaphysics was created after physics. What comes after physics? Well, in the case of brains, minds do. So so this is you know, an area like people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they really need to upgrade. Some of these guys, Neil deGrasse Tyson would do very well just to turn everything off for you know, a year, and just a guy like him could go and master in philosophy no problem in a year. But you know, you gotta understand the basics. He's getting the basics, like what you learn in philosophy 101. He's getting the basics wrong there. Uh, like the philosophy of um of uh of evolution. People are like, philosophy of evolution. Yeah, there's going to be people that ask the question, okay, this may be what is going on in reality, but should we learn it? Is that what's really best for humanity from, let's say, a well-being perspective? And then you would argue, yeah, of course it is, because the more we know, we could create better technologies to understand and things like this. But you know, you can't take that stuff for granted. You can't just say, well, I mean, most people are going to agree with my value set. That's not a that's a popular that's a fallacious argument, right? So yeah, I see science communicators fail time and time again to understand where philosophy is necessary, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's not necessary. uh Yeah, Kira Week says Neil deGrasse Tyson does say a lot about the arts and science together, and has mentioned a lot about how to teach people how to think and not what to think. Yeah, of course. Yeah, almost everyone is on board, and it's so funny that we still teach like what is going on in reality when okay, we have this has everything. I'm upside down. This has everything, right? Um, and so, you know, from a knowledge perspective, if you know how to access this, like we've created things like Wikipedia, which is a really good start into any topic. YouTube, you can get as long as you have an internet connection, you can get a damn good education, and you can now take university level master's examinations online, sample tests. So you can really prepare yourself to challenge any degree online if you're an autodidact like I am. I have no need for a degree, but I'm sure I could, you know, challenge many degrees. But I have no need for them. But if you're autodidactic like I am, um, and I think more people, not everyone's going to be a pure autodidact, which they're going to, some online content is not suited for an autodidact. It's more like you're watching a lecture, as though you're sitting in a lecture hall. So they would use that content more, um which is good too. But refine the fundamental mechanisms for students so that they can go into the world and and know that they're going to have refined versions. How do you determine what is going on in reality? How do you solve moral dilemmas? The scientific and artistic inspirational elements of reality. And then what is the role of skepticism in all of this? Questioning and continuing to question anything that emerges. So including anything in your experience. Maybe You weren't raped. Or maybe you were raped. Maybe you weren't assaulted. Or maybe you were. You know, being able to ask ourselves and challenge ourselves on any question, regardless of the emotional magnitude behind the experience. Um, Clean Sweep says, "Wow, thank you." Okay, yeah, thanks. Uh, yeah, and curious, definitely, shaping. Like I have this dream of building these educational centers, these Pangburn education centers, where all of the lessons are going to be focused around how to think, how to access information, and you don't even touch the what is going on in reality. That all comes when you give the student an assignment and send them onto the internet, because they already have the mechanisms of refined as to how they're going to go about sourcing information. So the accuracy of how they source information and the arguments they make, um, that's going to be how they're graded, right? It won't be a grade on necessarily the ideology itself, but if you're doing a paper, if you ask a student, okay, you're gonna so you understand how you determine what is going on in reality. We've had many conversations about that. Now you're going to write a paper on any anything to do with the periodic table. Take a pick, anything. Now you're gonna write a paper on the concept of love. Go nuts. How you solve you already understand how you solve moral dilemmas, and you have skepticism babysitting it. If you teach these things, children have the best chance at maximizing their well-being. They have the best chance. Now, if you don't think that ought to be a goal, then you know I would say you might be acting antithetically towards what we do in medical science, or what we are trying to do with the law of the land, at least in the more developed world. Um, just got to check my email here, dudes. Waiting for an important email. But yes, you guys, uh, this is the first time I'm saying this. Penn Jillette and Lawrence Krauss in conversation together in Toronto, August 9th. Be there or be square. It's going to be fucking electric at the Meridian Hall, former Sony Center. I just have to sign the venue contract, um, and we will be rock and roll. So you guys are going to get access to that content here, but mark it in your calendars. August 9th, Penn Jillette and Lawrence Krauss. Very excited for this. Penn Jillette is a living hero of mine. I've been so lucky to meet and work with many of my living heroes, and I'm really excited for this one. Make sure you guys drop a like on this video. Feel free to share it. Share it with any of my haters, people who think I'm some evil asshole. I really like engaging with people who who hold these kind of beliefs about me. Thomas Jefferson says the meaning of life is to create life. In my opinion, by doing so, you become immortal in a way with continuing your DNA lines. Interesting. But how do we fundamentalize that? Where does your drive to create life come from? Come on, Thomas. Go deeper, man. Where's that drive coming from to create life? And why don't some people have it? I mean, that's interesting that's the meaning you've landed on. But I would challenge you to go deeper. What's driving that? You know? Uh and what has made you land? That's very interesting. What has made you land on wanting to be immortal? This idea of immortality is very scary to most people. I like it. I would love to live forever if I could, right? because as far as I'm concerned, uh, you know, death is final. It's just a, we have one thing this is kind of a principle I've been, or it's a statement I've been making about death is we have all the time in the world to be dead, right? All the time in the world to be dead. Um, so uh, maximize your pleasurable pursuits that are morally checked, while you can, because you have all the time in the world to be dead. Um, yeah, and I know that sometimes people get to a stage where they're like, just deleting and not existing at all feels much better. And I kind of, one of my things to say to them is like, don't be so hasty. I know, like, suffering and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, yeah, but eventually that's going to end in a very short amount of time. Like, in, you have like, 20, 40, 60 years, and that'll be done with, and you'll get your finality of death. Um, yeah. Yeah, so Thomas, if I ever have to answer that question in like a very grand meta sense of what is the meaning of life, because people ask me that all the time, I tell them that a concept of meaning is going to be um, so unique to any subject. Subject meaning the mind's born out of the object, the brain. Um, it's going to be so unique to the subject, so it's really whatever we want to create, whatever we want to imagine our meaning is. So these concepts are going to be uh, unique to each subject. um, but if I had to give like a generally for humanity, what is meaning, because meaning, I would argue, is derived from our pleasurable pursuits, the things we find pleasurable to pursue. Like life is preferential to death and health is preferential to sickness. Two fundamental presuppositions that almost every human being of sound mind is operating from. But what are those derived from? Well, they're simply pleasurable pursuits like anything else. Um, so we I'm gonna take my slippers off because it's getting hot in my room. It's really hot in Vancouver today. It's brilliant. Um, yeah, so fundamentally, pleasure is the meaning. You're satisfying this pleasure drive. Um, and if you come up with your meaning statement, like you've come up with, uh, it's a when you've decided what meaning is to you, you've found it to be more pleasurable to say to create life, to create this concept of creating life and your way of being immortal. You've come to that because it's more pleasurable for you to come to that than something else. And I mean capital P pleasure in the neuroscientific sense. It the deterministic causal chain of events has led you, and what I would call your pleasure drive, to land on to create life is your meaning. I think you and Genghis Khan have that in common. Don't forget to laugh, people. Laugh more. We need more laughter. Be prepared to laugh. Find humor in things. There's so many people when they come into conversations about philosophy, and you'll notice on my podcasts, like when I get to meet someone new or meet someone very interesting, like I laugh a fair amount because it's y- you know co- there's something, I think there's something fundamentally comedic about existence if you clarify your mind. You don't have to take it so seriously. I mean, how can you escape this fight or flight um, feeling, which we should all want to escape? You don't want to feel like you have a tiger running up your ass your entire life. You want to find peace, don't you? I think we all do. I think when people reach a sufficient level of peace, you'll find that I think you'll find that laughter comes to them um, much more frequently, and it's a good thing. We feel good when we're laughing. This is why I ask people a lot in my philosophical coaching practice. Which, by the way, if you want more information on that, just search Travis Pangburn Philosophical Coaching, and you'll find the information. It's all free. The first 3 sessions are free. If you want to maintain longer than that, then we can talk about it. But usually after 3 sessions, we've achieved a greater level of peace in your life just through intellectual discourse. But talking about, this question of, are you laughing enough? Do you feel as though you're laughing enough in your life? And people, well, how much is enough? Maybe you're taking existence a little bit too seriously, or maybe a lot too seriously. And that's not to say you shouldn't understand what your commitments are and understand, and care to make things work that you love and enjoy. But it's going to be more destructive to you to be going at this in this fight or flight way, as opposed to going at this in a way of maximizing the well-being of individuals engaged in any situation. Conceptual Vision says, since we have the ability to choose how many incarnations we want or need to increase the quality of our consciousness, there's really no rush, but optimizing our core being is still in our interest. Wow, there's a lot to pick through there. Since we have the ability to choose how many incarnations we want, well, I mean, for starters, this idea of choice, I'm happy to go there with you, so long as we're talking about the illusion of choice, because I think physics has already demonstrated quite clearly to us that we don't make choices in the actual sense, in the physical sense. In the metaphysical sense, yes, but not in the physical sense. To increase the quality of our consciousness. Can you elaborate on that? The quality of our consciousness. Consciousness is a concept. There is no physical measurement of consciousness. We don't have a working theory of consciousness. I think the concept is poetry. It's not a physics concept, which is why I'm proposing the pleasure drive theory. We don't have a working theory of consciousness. Right now, it's a very poetic concept. This idea of general awareness, like being aware of things. We're not aware of anything. As I've been talking to you here, I'm aware of the words and the exchange that we're having to some degree. Not really aware, just doing it. But if I have the ability to be aware, okay, I'm thinking of my mom right now. Okay, when I'm thinking of my mom, I think of her. For some reason, it went straight to her sitting in her office doing her work, her smile. Okay, I'm aware of my mom, but I am having a hard time picturing my mom's clothing that that she might be wearing that day at work. I'm having a hard time picturing the shape of her face exactly. We are aware of fuck all. Fuck all. We're aware of fuck all. How many times do I need to say it? We are aware of sweet fuck all. This idea of awareness, general awareness, and trying to use this to explain as a concept to explain minds. Get the fuck out of here with that. It's a bad hypothesis. Uh, anytime someone starts talking about awareness, yeah, it's wrong. But yeah, my pleasure drive theory, I think, will shed some light on how we need to start looking at quote unquote the mind. You know, not as special as we think. You know, the mind of a human being compared to the mind of an ant. The mind of an ant? Ants don't have minds. The emotions of bacteria. Google it. Bacteria have feelings too. How do we know this? Have a read. Um, and then you say you make a lot of claims here, conceptual visions into this, the quality of our consciousness. Ooh, there's really no rush. Ooh, but optimizing our core being is still in our interest. Ooh, there's a lot of subjectivity in the terms that you're using. Optimizing our core being. What is a core being? There's a lot of material there. Let's try to clarify it. Zachary Miller says, I think if you were immortal at one point, everyone will die out, and then you'll be alone for billions of years, maybe when the sun expands and swallows the earth, and you'll be in burning, unable to die. Sounds like a possibility, but you'll still be experiencing something. If you're immortal, yeah, of course we would have to look at what that means in this case. You probably wouldn't take it, you probably wouldn't want to be immortal if it comes with, the suffering of feeling the sun, on your body, right? Fenton Muley says we wouldn't have the same. Make sure you guys drop a like, by the way. If you enjoy the content on this channel, please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed yet. I'd really appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to have content coming to you from all around the world very soon with this philosophical expedition that I'm planning. Um, Fenton says, we wouldn't have the same emotions like loneliness and regret if we were immortal. The context would make all values different. Perhaps, maybe. Elioth says, Yas Queen. Curious Week says, the meaning of life is only meaningful to us as an individual. The meaning of life is only meaningful to us as an individual. Well, I think we will have our own individual concepts of meaning, even though there might be some similarities with other people. But I think our experiences, our phenomenology, which is unique to us, is going to inform our meaning concept in some unique way. So I think every meaning concept is going to be somewhat unique. 3 generations down from now, we will be forgotten. The only reason we are actually here is through a non-broken chain of ancestors. Yeah, I mean, also I laugh my way through life, even through turmoil. Yeah, of course. Uh, bad shit will happen. Shit that we think is bad in the moment. Maybe later we will say, "Hey, you know what? That wasn't so bad," or maybe that was way worse than I thought it was. But here I am. I survived. The fear of dying and our natural defense systems evicting are not the same as metaphysical desire to be uh, immortal. Sure, yeah, we're talking about our like emotional knee-jerk reaction to the thought of dying, and then we and then our concept of dying and how it comes into contact with that emotional knee-jerk reaction that comes very much from our hardware before it is has the chance to uh, mix with our software. You know, we have these instinctual reactions to death. Conceptual visions, we do have a decision space. You can act on an impulse even if you can't control the impulse itself. So there's no, quote, determinism, only a decision space to act within. Well, I mean, I would say physics disagrees with you. What you are saying, conceptual visions, is that there is this magic thing called free will that we haven't measured, by the way. We haven't found it. But there's this magic thing that interrupts the causal chain of events and has the ability to steer it in a new direction. That's the power you're giving to the mind. And I think that's a very human thing to do. It's something that seems intuitive to most human beings. But when we measure what's going on in the brain and in the quote unquote mind and how those things coalesce with one another, we see that certain things like thoughts are happening to us. So our body is doing thinking, and then we become, and then we notice our thinking. So it's not the way we used to think it was, where we just like, we will our thoughts, because we're like these beings with free will to think. Yeah, I mean, it's and it's not just what Sam Harris says, it's what, like you can read the neuroscientific journal entries for this. And I think we should form our beliefs with regards to what is going on in reality based on our best working models for things. Make sure you guys drop a like on this stream. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Always like engaging with you guys in this format. Yeah, when you say, Concept, that we have a decision space, conceptually we do, but we're talking about what is going on in reality. If you say there is a decision space, a neuroscientist is going to say, show it to me. They're going to say, show it to me. And then you must say, oh, I mean conceptually. So it exists in the metaphysical arena. And then they'll say, oh, okay, that's not what we're trying to measure. So we have to always understand where we're, getting into the realm of concepts or staying in the physical realm. Zachary Miller says, I don't really see meaning. I think it's kind of funny that we even exist at all. I'm waking up today so I can work, so I can eat, so I can stay alive. Why? So I can work tomorrow, so I can eat, so I can, for the pleasure of doing so. Unfortunately, some people, these two fundamental presuppositions, life is preferential to death and health is preferential to sickness. Unfortunately, some people, that switches for them. Life becomes too unbearable and death becomes more preferential to life. And they go kill themselves. But we do this, we continue on for the pleasure of doing so, fundamentally. There's no need to. There's no intrinsic meaning that should drive us to do it. This is why my fundamental philosophical work is about, it includes artistic and scientific inspiration. How inspired are individuals to get out of bed? Is it difficult? Why is it difficult? Why is it so difficult to smile and find joy and reach a level of peace where you don't feel as though you're running from a lion your entire life? I think about this a lot. I've thought about it in my own life, at stages in my life where things stack up so much and things get difficult and, relationships break down and and you move on. You hit that reset button, um, and you really think about your inspirational meters, and are they working hard enough for you? Um, it seems to be the case that you cannot be at peace if you're not inspired. Uh, that's something I think I've stumbled upon. So this is why inspiration is a big part of my five fundamental mechanisms. Raymond Gonzalez, thank you for your comment. Make sure you guys drop a like and share this stream if you're enjoying it. I appreciate any new people we can get involved in the conversations here. Oh, by the way, guys, since I have you, we're going to be talking about free speech on the CallIn app today. And I really want you guys to join us for that conversation if you can make it. If you can't, that's fine. But I hope you join us for a conversation eventually. But here, I'm going to give you guys the link here. This new app that we have partnered with for our daily discussions. We have a daily conversation every day about matters of philosophy, science, art, life, you name it. I've given you guys the CallIn app link right there. It's really easy to use. It's a social podcasting app. You'll see our library of conversations that we've had already, but it's really easy for you to connect with your phone and call into the show and give your take on any issue. We have group discussions with people from all around the world. We have stellar hosts. I'm usually there, and we have a really good time. So I hope you guys join us on CallIn, because it's a brilliant new app created by funded by David Sachs and many other people who have been working really hard on the app, and we're really enjoying the conversation that we're having there. Raymond Gonzalez says we are hostage to processes that we can't control, processes that produce thoughts. You're so right, Raymond. You're so dead right on that. I couldn't agree with you more. But there is a but here. We need to find a way conceptually, like we have with free will. We need to play in this game of free will, or we will go insane or just die. So determinism is not an answer to the metaphysical problems. It is the answer so far to what is going on in reality. But luckily, we have minds. We have the metaphysical realm of concepts where we can create concepts to better deal with what is going on in reality. And I think this illusion of free will, I know people don't like to call it an illusion, but I believe it is. Play within the illusion of free will. Yeah, go to court, charge people with crimes, lock them up. We're doing that as though we feel as though we could maybe not do that. But again, we're determined to play in it. Conceptual Vision says our job is to break out of that prison. Anytime you try to escape determinism, you're going to be looking behind you and being like, I think I'm outrunning it. And you're going to turn around to where you're running towards, and determinism is going to be waving at you like this. You're running away. Oh, I think I've created like this new like concept of free will that determinism can't escape. Oh, fuck. And determinism is just like, it's always ahead of you. It's always ahead of you. How do you, if we're talking about physical reality, if we're talking about physics, how do you escape something that is always ahead of you? Always ahead of your mind? Metaphysics after physics. We created this because minds are born out of objects. They're born out of physics. So how do you escape it, man? Uh, I was having a conversation with Randolph Richardson, who runs the Canadian Atheists organization. I think he runs it. Yeah, yeah. And I was talking about, like, okay, if someone wants to get sci-fi with this, they can talk about the free will particle. If we want to get quantum mechanical about this, and okay, the free will particle is this particle that, like, somehow the particle comes from our minds. It punches the deterministic causal chain of events in the face, or holds it back, like Goku versus Frieza. It holds it back like this. It holds it back until, this, like, pure form of mind is all of a sudden released of the deterministic causal chain of events. And then we are all of a sudden in control of the free will particle. And then we get to change its course like magic. Sounds like an interesting sci-fi book. But do you know what's the fucking bitch about that? We're controlling the free will particle. We're in this absolute peaceful state of mind where we're in control of the free will particle. And then all of a sudden we're like, we're holding it back, about to make our decision. And then we make our decision. And then we look ahead and determinism's still sitting there waving at us. Trying to escape the deterministic causal chain of events, trying to escape cause and effect. This is something apes seem to not be able to conceptualize. Now, is it possible that we could? Of course, anything's possible. I'm gonna burn your ass with this one. And maybe this will affect your epistemological standard of truth. It's possible that there are married bachelors. Suck on that one. Oh, that doesn't work with my ape logic. I understand. It's almost certainly not the case, but it's possible. No, it's logical absolutes, laws of logic. Understand, any concept that is born out of any mind, it's possible that it's incorrect. Allow that to inform your epistemological standard of truth, so that you don't have to absolutely claim anything. There's no need to. I don't need to absolutely claim that I exist, or that I'm existing, or that I'm experiencing something. I'm almost certain of that. But it's also possible that I just don't understand what this is. That's possible. And it doesn't affect my ability to say that, this coffee cup is an object. Look at this. I'm playing with it. It's an object. Is it possible that this isn't an object? Sure, it's possible. Oh, that means you'll just go insane if you apply that principle. No. It just means that when I know that this cup is here. I'm happy to claim that. It's just my epistemological standard of truth is not certainty. I don't have to be certain of this. I'm almost certain of it, but I don't have to be certain of it. Why do we feel like we have to be certain of it? Yeah, and Jack, that's true. People fall into solipsism with what I'm talking about. They go around and be like, I can't know anything, or I can't be certain about anything, so I don't know anything. No one can ever know anything. I don't know that my name is Travis. At that point, you have an epistemology that is worth dick all at that point. Yeah, so Raymond Gonzalez, that's interesting. Matt Dillahunty would agree with you that our faculties may be flawed in ways in which we are unaware, but he would say that he is maximally certain, not absolutely, that the laws of logic will apply. Now, maximally certain, interesting. It's an interesting way to put it. I would say almost certain is more clear, because maximally certain would be like the maximal level of certainty that one could reach. But maybe it's not. You know, it's maybe not maximally. So I don't like maximally. And we don't need it. A lot of people are like, well, I need to be certain about something. No, you don't. In my first book, I ask, are you certain that you are going to love your mother tomorrow? Oh, why did that happen? And that's a question I will pose to you guys today. Are you certain that you are going to love your mother tomorrow? This hits on so many different mechanisms. Are you certain that you're going to love your mother tomorrow? Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you drop a like. We're 3 away from 20 likes. I would appreciate it if we got up to 20. Drop a like. Spam that like button. Share the stream if you've enjoyed this. I'm going to try to come on and do these like just rap sessions, Q&As with you guys and see where they go more often. I really do enjoy them. It inspires me, maximizes my well-being. I hope it does something for your guys's. Dwarf Grinder, thank you for the comment, says, oh, we're up to 21, right on. Says, so we are just not smart enough to predict with certainty anything. So it is only certain that we don't understand shit. No, it's only almost certain, because it actually might be certainly the case that we do understand shit. Like the standard model is a beautiful model. By the way, some interesting things happening with the W boson, the weak force carrier. AK says, "Come to Allah." What is Allah? Conceptual Vision says, I should have written, have free will within only a decision space. Outside that decision space, which can be really small, I can go along with deterministic perspectives. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not making a physical claim about it, if it's metaphysical, fuck, the metaphysical realm of concepts is anything. That's art. Art is anything. Metaphysical, man. Show me the object of art. Well, you can pick a metric, but that metric was subjectively chosen, right? Much like we do with morality, right? Dwarf Grinder says it's a model based on probability, not certainty. Yeah, sure. But all I'm saying, Dwarf Grinder, is that the model may be certainly accurate, but I'm still only almost certain of its accuracy, because I have no way to determine whether it's certainly accurate. That's the problem. Raymond says, visions, the act of using those reflections to act in the future differently, doesn't solve the problem. You can't actually inspect the process that dictate the outcome of those reflections. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're caught. Jack says, the only reason I think people want to have a fully certain answer is because people can come at them with the argument that no one can be certain about anything. Then the counter becomes, oh, here it is. Maybe not though. Yeah, I mean, that's when you get into the argument. If someone says, well, I'm almost certain about many things, like the existence of ghosts, and then you have to examine, you actually have to have the conversation of like, okay, let's look at your epistemological standard of truth, and what is currently justifying that. What are your proofs? What is your evidence? Empiricism. Yeah, and we might have arguments about like uh about truth. And Jordan Peterson gets into, metaphorical truth. He gets into true, like the straightness of an arrow, different forms of true. Um as an empiricist, I mean true empirically. Unless we're talking about, again, the metaphysical realm of concepts, then uh empiricism goes out the window, man. Fundamentally. But we can use empiricism to, like, as long if I pick well-being as my subjective fundamental metric for morality, then I can use empiricism to inform that, right? Raymond says, as Sam Harris has said, even if you think that the universe is completely random and not determined, you still can't take any responsibility for that. It's just someone rolling dice in the brain. Well, I mean, you got to wrestle with the damn thing. I mean, you got men over here dying and no one's caring about them, man. Um, yeah. Yeah. Anytime people try to say rolling dice, that's just not physics. It's not rolling dice is not physics. Uh, it's not as simple as that. Zachary Miller says that was what happened with Harris versus Peterson on the meaning of truth. They can't get past most of the time, and it kills any further conversation. Well, I mean, yeah, you got to make sure you don't talk past each other. People can continue in conversations with dual or multiple definitions of truth. You just have to outline in your next segment that we're going to talk about metaphorical truth, or we're going to talk about true as an arrow. We're going to talk about artistic truth, or we're going to talk, we're going to talk, uh, the truth about what is going on in reality. Um, so yeah, it's you got to clarify the metric. That's something I always say. When I hear conversations going down the tubes, it's almost always because people have not clarified the damn metric. Clarify the metric. By what standard, as Bruce will say on and rightfully so on Discord. By what standard? Uh, yeah, this is what we're talking about. Clarify the metric. If you say, well, it's just better to know what is going on in reality. Oh my God, you've made a value judgment. You've opened up a huge can of worms. Better by what standard? By a human survival standard? By a well-being standard? By a satisfying the Christian God standard? By um, by a sexual standard? Like, clarify the damn metric. Clarify the damn metric. When you say what is reality, Zachary, it's objects. Yeah. Reality is objects, and some of those objects uh, can create, uh, or some of those objects can create subjects, meaning the minds that are born out of brains. But yeah, I mean, reality is objects. Um, Zachary Miller says a classic conversation about why is there anything instead of nothing. We've always thought that that is a very interesting question, but it presupposes that nothing is possible. I'm not convinced that nothing is possible. Um, I think that the best answer we can give about uh, what reality is fundamentally. This is why I'm writing my third book. The my state of potential theory. My state of potential theory talks about pre-Big Bang states, and uh, the least of what we can be almost certain of um, is that uh, the pre-Big Bang state is a state of potential. We don't have to anthropomorphize it. We don't have to give it any kind of special meaning or attributes. Um, we don't even have to say that the laws of quantum mechanics were in operation. We don't have to say any laws were in operation outside of that there is a potential for something to happen. State of potential. I think it's a mistake for people like Lawrence Krauss to call this nothing. It's not nothing. That does not satisfy logic to say nothing. It's not nothing. It's a state of potential, and maybe that state of potential goes on for trillions upon trillions upon trillions of years without anything happening, but the state of potential is still there. Is that infinite? Probably. I think it's most likely that there is an infinite state of potential where and it solves the infinite regress problem. But we don't have to anthropomorphize it. We don't have to call it a god. We don't have to add any kind of unnecessary attributes. The only thing we have to say is it's a state of potential. Yeah, and state could mean no time, no space, no energy, no nothing, except that it's a state of potential. It could mean it doesn't have space. So we don't we take on too many burdens of proof, when we create some of these models. My model simply states it's logic. It's just simple and it's logically consistent that at some point in this infinite regress, there has to be an infinite state of potential. Again, I almost claim that with I'm only almost certain about that, right? Like I was talking about before. I'm only almost certain of that, and it could very well be wrong, but it satisfies my epistemological standard of truth. So I know that there is an infinite state of potential. This is what logic has told me, and I'm almost certain that logic is correct. Let's see what we got here. Ben P says, reality is under no obligation to be understood logically. Yeah, sure. That's true. That's why I'm only almost certain about it. But as a thinking ape, logic is, logic is the system we created based on the consistent relation of reality. So as an ape, I look at the consistent relation of reality, and then I see, okay, then we create this system called logic to map that. And and we use that. It's at the fundamental basis of everything, like mathematics. So yeah, there is no claim that reality is under no obligation to, or that reality is under an obligation to understand logically. I don't think anyone makes that claim, by the way, Ben. It's kind of a platitude, what you're saying there. Yeah, I mean, that's something to think about, Ben. It's like, do you ever hear anyone say reality is under the obligation to be understood logically? I don't think I've ever heard anyone make that claim. Currently, logic doesn't explain quantum mechanics. Actually, mathematics is born out of logic. So anything we do understand about quantum mechanics, um, is born out of logic. So yeah, I don't know what you mean by your claim. Yeah, Dwarf Grinder says, but math is incomplete. Sure. Um, yeah, you guys, there's a lot of okay. Yeah, and again, you guys, you want to catch yourself uh, from being platitudinous, right? Um, who's claiming that mathematics is complete or that logic is complete? You know, Raymond says, I think that Lawrence uses a slightly different definition of nothing because it's the only way to talk about it scientifically. Yeah, I don't think it is a scientific thing to say um, that absent our systems, space, time, energy, absent that, that means there's nothing. That's you don't, you shouldn't make that positive claim. The right thing to do in that situation is to say, okay, what are pre-Big Bang states like, or what was the pre-Big Bang state? You say I don't know until you create a hypothesis that we can, that's satisfied by you know uh, logic or through empiricism, right? Uh, yeah, of course, logic isn't prescriptive. Ben P says, "Do you think math is a universal discovery or a language used to describe the universe?" Um, well, the uh, universal discovery is based on the consistent relation of reality. That's what logic, mathematics, that's what these languages are based on, the consistent relation of reality. The universal thing is the consistent relation of reality. Looking at two objects and being able to tell if they're different and what that means, like these basic principles are what logic and mathematics are born out of. Those are the languages, the concepts born out of what is going on in reality, what we observe. um, do I have a degree in philosophy? No, I've never needed one. If I ever did need a degree in philosophy, I would simply just challenge a master's. Raymond says, I thought by nothing he was talking about the properties of empty space as opposed to pre-Big Bang, but maybe I misunderstood him. Um, yeah. So when he talks about the properties of empty space, so we are making a presupposition that without or in empty space, um, there would be nothing, right? That's the presupposition I have a problem with. Curious Week says, "What's the probability that this could actually be a simulation? Our reality could be some beings viewing pleasure in their own reality." Well, it's interesting because it's not as wild as one would think, right? There are some people who have looked into this and did the probabilistic computations, like from like a quantum mechanical perspective, and you know in some of these models I've seen, it's higher than 50% chance that we're in a simulation. um Again, I think it's kind of a it's kind of a uh a pontification that, as to me as a pragmatist, may not have very much practicality unless we find something like, unless we find some blip in the matrix where we're like, holy fuck, or we can tap into something that allows us to tweak the laws of physics, like the fundamental laws. But so as far as I can tell, we have no good reason to believe that this is the case. We can write a probabilistic equation for anything, including like the chances for me to disintegrate and repopulate on the surface of the sun. We can actually write a probabilistic equation for that. Dwarf says, so does a deterministic reality require completeness? Uh, we try to prove it with logic and math, and both are incomplete. So does a deterministic reality require? No, it doesn't require completeness. Like none of our, it's, I mean, I'm almost certain that all of our scientific models will always be open to change and adaptation. It's really the beauty of science. Um, so when we're trying to say like complete, um, no, nothing's really complete with regards to scientific models and theories. Fenton says Nick Bostrom didn't create the simulation argument to motivate fear. He used it as a way to assess anthropic basis. It is not provable. Yeah. Bravo says, is nihilism useful in any way or just counterintuitive to human flourishing? Well, nihilism has taken on a like not in the philosophical sense of nihilism. It's taken on this body of like being negative towards existence, having this like negative outlook on things, and like, just like just this grumpy existence, and like not at peace, just just this person kind of grunting around and just like not enjoying life. So there's a problem with what the common usage of nihilist or nihilism has become. And so I think people should be careful to use that label. And this is why I think it's better to just, rather than saying, I'm an empiricist, or I'm a nihilist, or I'm a realist, or I'm a idealist, I'm this, that, and the other. Um, I think people should stay away from doing that, and talk about, get the isms out of the way. Talk about the how you think about this concept, or your particular concepts in your mind. Describe them. Zachary says reality is simulating us right now. To simulate. Um, do you think you're using? Do you think you're being too loose with that? What a simulation is, Zachary? Do you think that's consistent with the common usage? No, dwarf. Physics shows us that things seem to be determined by cause and effect nature. So, but we don't have to be absolute about anything. God, we need to get rid of absolutism. Oh, Michael asking about abortion. At what point is abortion bad? After around the 24-week mark, when pain neurons start firing. I think that's reflected in most laws. But at any point before that, women should be allowed to have an abortion. That's where my well-being morality has pointed me to thus far. Zachary, isn't the universe just a computer? Um, no, I think it's too calling it a computer is too restricting. I mean, it's computational in nature. And I think if ever anyone wants to look at Stephen Wolfram's work, I had a podcast with Stephen Wolfram on this channel, but do check out Wolfram Physics. I think Stephen Wolfram's right that basic computations, fundamental rules of reality lead to this complexity. But to call it a computer, no, I don't think so. I think computer, yeah, I don't know about that. There's something too too vague about that. You know, it's kind of like calling God energy. You know, Ben P says, considering the infinite regress problem, how could we ever expect science to give us a satisfactory answer to how reality began? The question, how reality began, is, again, it's a presupposition. We shouldn't presuppose that reality began. Like I said, I think the best answer I can give so far to this problem is that there has been and always will be a state of potential. That just means a state in which something can happen. I give a logic equation to this in my third book, which, I'm trying to get these books out, trying to pound them out as quickly as I can, but they're becoming a lot more robust than I imagined. I was going to release these like short books, but they've taken on a new body. And during this philosophical expedition that I'm planning, I plan on at least getting my first book done. But I'll have a lot of time to write while I'm out on the road. So, Dwarf, you say, how does infinite state of, I think you meant state of potential, exist in a world of entropy? Well, I think entropy, one of the interesting properties of an infinite state of potential is that it's not affected by entropy. I think it's the one state that we can logically say, if we're going to say that something is at the fundamental basis to solve this infinite regress problem, without giving it with giving it the least amount of properties that we can say that this state of potential, this infinite state of potential at the fundamental basis of reality, is absent any effect from entropy. And again, like, trying to adopt, if we have to theorize about pre-Big Bang states, which we're probably never going to be able to empirically measure, right? We have to take on as the least amount of baggage. Well, as an empiricist, I have to take on the least amount of baggage in order to make any kind of knowledge claim or any kind of belief claim about pre-Big Bang states. Make sure you guys drop a like. We got a bunch of you in the room right now. Smash that like button if you appreciate this live stream, and consider sharing it. I'm going to do more of these every day. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm really enjoying some of the conversations you guys are having in the chat here. Ann Stevens says, if all the micro states of the universe could be recorded as a single vastly long binary number, the universe might be then simulated by a Turing machine of equally vast order. Yeah, I I think uh I think this is all machine learning. Yeah, I think it's all machine learning. Um, my pleasure drive theory tells me that the artist formerly known as consciousness, which I think my pleasure drive theory is a better theory of mind than any kind of like consciousness pontification. Um, it tells me that minds are just a byproduct of machine learning. There's nothing special about you know eventually your cinema that you're experiencing allows you to be a little more aware than a dog or a little more aware than a chimp. Um, and I mean aware only in states of awareness. Good God. This idea of, as I've been talking to you guys this whole time, I have no awareness that I exist. This is a sham that has been sold to people. I have no awareness that I exist as I'm communicating with you. I have it now that I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about, okay, yeah, I'm aware. Oh, I just thought of a donut because I had a donut the other day. And now I'm thinking about, where were we? This idea of awareness or general awareness is a fucking joke. Yeah, it's this is machine learning gives us an illusion of free will, an illusion of awareness, consciousness. What up, Alonzo? Alsono, I mean, Nasti. But yeah, one thing I see people making the greatest error on is during discourse is forgetting to clarify the metric. Clarify the metric in your discussions. Stop talking past each other using different metrics. And sometimes you'll be using the same. Again, I'm not talking about labels. Don't say, "Oh no, we both agreed that we're using truth as a metric." That doesn't necessarily mean you've clarified the damn metric. Clarify what you are talking about with regards to truth, what you mean by it, the way you are using it. Um, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you know or if you enjoy Pangburn content. I see you, Alsano, also known as T. Hey, Kotomak. So yes, you guys, big plans. This philosophical expedition I am planning will be the first of its kind. We're going to start in Japan, it looks like. It's going to be north side to south side. Philosophical expedition to find out how people are thinking. Not what people are thinking, but how people are thinking. It'll be a conversational journey myself and one other philosopher will be embarking on. And this will be the first data collection, as far as I can tell, in human history. We're gonna the plan is to do every country. We're gonna start with the larger countries, but the plan is to do every country and have this meta analysis of how human beings are thinking. We're going to start this journey, and within the next 4 months or so is the plan. And I think we'll start with Japan. And why Japan? I had a dream about it. I had a dream about as a philosopher walking through the land, having conversations with farmers, having conversations with the elite, having conversations with the poor, having conversation and recording this data and you know and some people say, well, why would we want data on how people are thinking? This should inform how we move forward from an education standpoint, our education standards of teaching. How do you determine what is going on in reality? How do you solve moral dilemmas? Some basic questions. How are people thinking about those questions? So this is something I'm currently planning. Another announcement, August 9th in Toronto. It will be Penn and Lawrence Krauss in conversation talking about atheism, science, and magic. That's Penn. And I am more than excited about this event. Toronto people from Toronto have been really harping at me to bring an event there. It's been too long, and that's the event. Really excited for it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to compare. I'm so interested to compare this analysis, like the Japanese analysis, compared to like the United States of America, which will be a very very long trek, right? You can imagine, like, the plan is to do this on a very large scale. Um, let's see, email. Yeah, and again, we will be focusing on this, not on people's beliefs, not information that you would be able to just do a poll, or else we would just do a poll, right? And focus on polling Japan. This is going to have to do with uh, the things you cannot get out of polling data, how people are thinking, a more detailed deep dive into how people are, what mechanisms people are calling upon to inform their belief structures. Focus on the mechanisms themselves. Kira Week says, when did you realize you were an atheist and what reason? Mine, as I'm sure most, is when we realized that there was lots of different gods. I was 8, then it all seemed ridiculous. I never have held a belief in any gods. As soon as as soon as I noticed or they were mentioned, I my for some reason in me, my initial emotional instinctual knee jerk reactions to things is to question them, right? To question their validity. Um, I've always been obsessed with the consistent relation of reality and trying to understand how people uh, function and how they come to believe things that they believe ever since I was a little boy. Um, so I just I don't know what it was like to adopt or to hold a belief in gods. I think at one point I probably believed in the existence of Santa Claus because I saw some evidence, like, my parents leaving some, like maybe a family member dressing up as Santa Claus, or I'm like, damn, he's here right in front of me. And, not realizing I was being tricked. Right. Um, and some other things, I mean, he ate part of the carrot in the cookies, and I was young enough to not realize that, like, oh, wait, my parents could have done that. a or a trillion other things could have done this that wouldn't necessitate the existence of Santa Claus. So that's the closest I can relate to someone on that, I think. Make sure you guys drop a like when you get into the room. Fenton, yeah. So street epistemology will be part of it. We'll get into taverns. We'll get into the higher end nightclubs. We'll meet up with some business, like some really high level business people, and have a quick conversation. And we'll talk to any religious practitioners. And we're going to try and hit every. I think the plan is going to be to spend a whole month in Japan collecting data. Um, and yeah, I'm kind of like thinking I'm thinking I'm going to like rent my place out and just be on the road for a few years. I think that's the goal. Should I let my beard grow out or no? That's the ultimate question. Ben P said, "What if you experience God personally? Would that convince you?" That's an interesting question. You know, anything that I would think is some kind of interaction with a God would almost certainly, in my mind as an empiricist, be a you know, illusory. So I don't know what that would look like, what that would mean. I you know, one thing I often preach to the religious is that it's a very dangerous belief to hold God as the ultimate moral authority, in case your mind might tell you something terrible, and you think it's coming from a God, like sacrifice your children, like we have seen these cases, many cases around the world, where the parents kill their children, thinking that God told them that this was necessary or something. Um, There's some good chats going on there, guys. 2 more likes to get to 30. Smash that like button. I'm going to take a quick break and fill up my water, but I will be right back. I promise you. Looks like Zachary's really getting into it. Elsano says, "Should I be vain or no?" You're so vain. You probably think the song is about you. You're so vain, so vain. No, I'm not warmed up enough to do my falsetto. I'll be right back. James West says, "Why do you think atheism is not a faith? That's something natural caused the Big Bang rather than a God like intelligent being." Because why do you think atheism is not a faith? Well, let's talk about faith. Faith, as far as I'm concerned, is the excuse you give for believing something when you have no good reason to give. Because you would give a good reason instead of saying faith if you had a good reason. So if someone says, "Do you believe that horses can fly?" And then let's say your holy book tells you that horses can fly, or you could say, "Do you believe a horse ever flew?" Um, and you might say yes because I read it in the book. It's like, well, how do you know that it actually happened? Well, I have faith Instead, if you had a good reason, you would be like, oh, because we observed it and we documented it, we filmed it, or whatever. You would give those reasons. Even if I think those reasons wouldn't be sufficient, you wouldn't be saying faith. So as far as I can tell, the common usage of faith is the excuse you give for believing something when you have no good reason to give. And it's an excuse because you're excusing away the burden of proof. And with regards to atheism has nothing to do with anything besides the rejection of God claims. So I don't believe in any of the God claims that have been proposed to me. And my reason would be I just see no good reason that those things are true. Like there's the burden of proof has not been met. I've seen zero proof of the existence of any gods. I've had things submitted to me as evidence, like holy books and things like that. But people even admit that these were holy books written by other people who claimed to be divinely inspired. And then I'm like, well, why do you believe them when they say that they were divinely inspired? And they're like, that's just my faith. I believe that they were divinely inspired. It's like, how did you verify this? I just have faith that they were. Like, that's insane. Ben P says, doesn't atheism also reject paranormal psychic abilities? No. Atheism is just a rejection of claims of God's existence. So here's an example of atheism. Someone comes up to me and says, the Christian God exists. And I say, oh, that's an interesting claim. Can you demonstrate that to me? I'll believe it if you can demonstrate it. And they failed to demonstrate it to me. And I am currently sitting in a position of a lack of belief. I just lack a belief in that. I'm not positively claiming that the Christian God doesn't exist, and atheism doesn't do that either. So I'll just do this quick thing because sometimes people get confused. By the way, 2 more likes to get to 30 likes. So keep smashing that like button, guys, and keep engaging in the chat. I'm really enjoying this. So what is atheism versus theism with regards to belief and knowledge? So let's look at belief. Atheism and theism deals with what we claim to believe with regards to gods. Okay? That's dealing with belief. So I don't currently believe in the existence of any gods. That doesn't mean I believe there are no gods. So don't confuse that. Now let's talk about epistemology, knowledge. Gnosticism and agnosticism deal with what we claim to know with regards to the existence of gods. Okay? So if someone asks you if you believe in God or not, don't make the common colloquial mistake of saying, I'm agnostic. Gnosticism and agnosticism deals with what we claim to know. Theism and atheism deals with what we claim to believe about gods. So you are either an agnostic atheist or a Gnostic atheist. You are either an agnostic theist or a Gnostic theist. So just so you understand how that breaks down philosophically. So just, I hear that mistake so often, and I like to put that out there as often as I can. So yeah, but yeah, atheism holds no other burdens, Ben. Now, when we start looking at knowledge, like the claims that we are willing to make about gods, we have to look at each of our epistemological standards of truth. So I will say to you, Ben, I will claim that gods don't exist to the same level of certainty that I will claim that Santa Claus doesn't exist, or that fairies don't exist, or that Michael Jackson is not flying around in space, flapping his arms as wings. I'm claiming it to that level of certainty. We have zero proof that these things are the case. There are ancient books of fairies and how they exist invisibly and they're always with us and flying around our heads. I don't see any good reason to believe that. It's some of these unfalsifiable propositions are just like, they're funny to me. But yeah, just understand that atheism is not adopting a burden of proof. It's simply a rejection, a lack of belief in the claim, in the positive claims that you make. Okay, so James, you're talking about if you want to talk about the Big Bang, we can. It seems it takes faith to claim that cause. So again, faith by my definition, and you can give me a different definition. I'll tell you if I think Big Bang is faith by that definition. But uh, so if we want to talk about the Big Bang, my definition of faith is uh, the excuse you give for believing something when you have no good reason to give. So I would say with the Big Bang, we have so many good reasons to believe in the Big Bang. All of the light we measure, we can measure everything, the cosmic microwave background. We have so many good reasons, empirically good reason, proofs to demonstrate or to satisfy the burden of proof for Big Bang theory. So it has nothing to do with faith. So based on my definition, if you want to present, so you say faith is belief without evidence, but we have proof of proofs of Big Bang. We have and we have all the evidence, man. Like you just think, if here, let me drop something for you. Here's a check. Oh, I thought I lost myself. Yeah, you're going to have everything you need here. James says, but what caused it? That's a very good question. It's a very good question. We don't know. What I can tell you, what a claim I am willing to make is that the pre-Big Bang state was a state of potential. It was a state of potential. That's a claim I can make logically that takes on the least burdens. Now that potential, that state of potential, you might want to say, well, that's God. But every time you add an extra layer of burden to your claim, you're then presupposing that a God can exist. Logically, something can't come from nothing. So we do have to wrestle with that logically. And yes, like I said at the beginning of this stream, it's possible that logic is flawed, or incorrect. It's our ape logic, right? Ape logic, it's possible it's wrong. I hate to burst everyone's bubble who likes to claim the logical absolutes with absolute certainty. But yeah, so click on that link to better understand the evidence and why Big Bang theory is a solid theory. Elsano says, why do we have to know where we are before, or sorry, where we are from when we don't even know where we're bound? Can you rephrase that? T says, rephrase. When you say pure logic exists, sure, I'm almost certain Well, yeah, conceptually it exists. Yeah, sure. Um, but it exists metaphysically. Any more brain busters? Oh, damn, there's a fire burning in Vancouver. Damn. So, if you think that God's existence is possible unknown, does that make me an so you have to ask yourself, Bravo, do you currently believe in the existence of God? Like, do you currently believe a God exists? If your answer is no, if your answer is like, no, I currently don't, but it's possible. If you don't hold a belief, like if you don't believe in one, then you're an atheist, right? Um, Now that then you have to examine uh, what you're willing to claim from a knowledge perspective. Are you willing to claim that there are no gods? If you are, then you would be a Gnostic atheist. But if you were willing to claim, but if you say, um, I don't know if there are any gods, but you currently don't believe, then you would be an agnostic atheist. Ben says, as a thought experiment, if God created everything, then God also created the notion of proof. Therefore, you can't use proof to prove God's existence, as proof would be a second order uh, phenomena. Well, that might be the case. Like even if God did create the notion of proof, though, why do you think that would mean you can't use proof to prove God's existence? It seems like you're adding something unnecessary there. But if you're saying that because of this you wouldn't be able to in this hypothetical, then fine. I mean, we can create that same unfalsifiable proposition with spaghetti monsters, with fairies, Santa Claus. Put anything in that thing. It doesn't have to be God. It could be the Grand Wizard, right? That is not a god, or the alien who isn't God from some other, the alien that has always been. You might want to call that God, but it rejects your God label. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please drop a like on this stream. I would really appreciate it. Tonight, we have a conversation on free speech happening on the CallIn app. Join us. You'll be able to call in and chat with myself or with host John J. Parker. I gave you guys the CallIn app there. It's a really easy to use app. Download it on your phone. You can listen in from your desktop if you want. If you want to use like your sweet podcast setup for when you do call in, you can download BlueStacks 5 for your PC that allows you to use that. But accessing the conversations through your phone is really easy. Again, join us on the CallIn app. It's a lot of fun. We have intellectual conversations every single day happening. We value freedom of speech. We want to hear everyone's ideas. It doesn't matter how wild and chaotic they are. We want to hear your ideas. The Pangburn community is open to engaging in the war of ideas with you. So please join us on the CallIn app. And, you know, I hope to see you guys there. We are 5:30 p.m. This evening Pacific time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, talking about free speech. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Elsano. Bravo, Ben, Zach, James, everyone. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate you guys. Love you all. And as always, let art and science inspire.